person, AV person, just to watch your equipment. So you want to be aware of that, and typically you want to use non-union hotels because they will save you money, and you can bring in your own AV. Now, if you're traveling to another city for your event, you want to get the quotes from the hotel and the AV, and you want to compare it to what it would cost you to transport your equipment to that city for the event. Because when you're doing that, you can compare if it's more cheaper to use the hotel's AV, or is it better for you to use your own AV. But those are a few tips when it comes to staying on budgets for your event. Because, and just to recap this section, because I know there's people going to be joining us here in a few minutes. One of the things is you want to, first off, you want to see if you can get training spaces from companies that resonate with your ideal audience. And those can be venue sponsors. So you want to make a list of like 10 of those companies, at least 5 of those companies, and reach out to them. By reaching out to them, you can start in the process of talking about them being venue sponsors. And like I said, make sure you have make sure the benefits they receive by being a venue sponsor. So that's a great way to save money that we just covered. Also, when it comes to hotels, you want to get multiple quotes, at least 5 or 6 quotes, because this will drive down your cost. Plus, you can use the leverage of the competition's quotes, especially if you're like a hotel that offers a higher price, to drive down that hotel's price or give you additional concessions. AV. Now, with AV, you should buy your own equipment, especially if it's local events, because you'll save money. If you go into different cities across the country, you compare whether it be cheaper for you to fly in your own equipment or use the hotel's AV. You also want to be aware of the hotels being union and non-union. The union ones, well, most likely are not going to let you bring in your own equipment. And if they do, they're going to ask you to pay their AV person to watch your equipment. So that's going to be additional cost for your conference. So you want to consider that as well. And then you want to ask the hotels also about the food minimum, because in some cases the food minimum is cheaper than the meeting space. And then the meeting space you can get for free, and you can always get sponsors for your food. So those are some tips when it comes to staying on budget for your events. And what we're going to do now also is go into speaker selection strategies. Now, this is a great thing here. Really, is how do you select speakers for your event? How do you make sure they're the right fit for the event? So here's some questions you want to ask potential speakers. One is you want to ask them, what's the ideal audience they like to speak in front of? What is their target market? Because this will give you a good idea right off the bat if they're a good fit or not. After you ask them what their target market is, you want to ask them what is the product or service that they're offering, because you want to find out if that resonates with your audience, if the price point is right or not. Because if they're charging $50,000 for coaching and your audience is used to paying $1,000 or $3,000, then it's not going to be a good fit. If your audience is used to paying $20,000, $30,000 and you're charging $100, it's not going to be a good fit either. So you need to know what your audience is paying when you've brought in outside speakers as far as coaching, and even for your own training, and then determine, is that speaker's product or service going to add value to your audience and your community? And if it does, then you want to go to the next step and negotiate the JV agreement, because some speakers will pay out 30 to 45 days after the event on product sales, because they have 30 days money back guarantees. Other speakers have only a week or 2 weeks money back guarantees. So you want to have that clearly in writing. And you want to communicate what that speaker is also going to get. So if it's straight JV and they're coming in for free, and then you're just doing a revenue share, great. Also, another thing you want to think about is that when you book big thought leaders for your events. Now, when you're booking big thought leaders for events, now, ideally, if you can get them to come fly in for free and just do JV on the back end, that's great. But in some cases, a lot of cases, these thought leaders and influencers want to be paid a speaking fee or their travel expenses covered. So these are the questions you have to ask yourself as an event organizer, producer, to determine if it's a good investment or not. One training, my name is Jason Burke, CEO, High Performance System and Event Expert. And today we're going to be covering 3 things. We're going to be covering how to keep your events on budget, speaker selection strategies of how to determine what speakers are best for your events. We'll also be covering how to fill your events. Just to give you a little background about me, I've done over 200 events since 2010. I worked with some of the top thought leaders like Power Team Nationals, Bill Walsh, raising CapEx with Brad Blazer, that's raised $2 billion in capital, is connected to Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington. I worked Realty Forum magazine and expo as well. I've worked with Dave Lindell for my mentor. So I've worked with some of the top thought leaders in the real estate and business education space. So we're going to go right into it today. So I'm going to start off with how to keep your events on budget. Now, this is very important, especially when you're first starting out. When you're first starting out and you haven't done a lot of events, I'm going to give you a strategy that has saved me thousands of dollars of cost of meeting space and AV cost. Look for companies that have training rooms and see if there'll be venue sponsors for your event. And what I mean by venue sponsor is that they'll let you use their training room for free or low cost, or maybe a couple $100 of very low cost compared to if you were paying for a hotel. They might even throw in the AV. Now, with a venue sponsor, you want to make it clear what's the benefit of them giving you the venue or offering you the venue at a low price than if you're paying a hotel. What's the benefit for them? Is it more recognition? Is it more clients? Is it more awareness in the community? Whatever the benefit is, you need to clearly communicate that because you want it to be a win-win situation. But that technique alone will save you thousands of dollars, because especially when you're first starting out and you may have like 10 or 15 or 20 people, it really makes sense to find a company that has a training room instead of going into a hotel right away. And then once you build that audience up, then you can transition into a hotel. Because I did this in my Las Vegas Real Estate Insights Club meetings in Vegas and the real estate events that I ran in Las Vegas. And it saved me thousands of dollars in AV and meeting room space that I would have had to pay a hotel otherwise. So that's a great strategy to stay on budget. Use other companies' training rooms. Make sure it's a win-win situation for your venue sponsor and clearly communicate the value you're giving them. But that's a great way to save money just on your meeting room expenses and everything like that. Now, when you go into hotels, this is another thing too. You want to do a couple things. One, you want to get 5 or 6 quotes from the hotels in the area you're thinking of holding your event. You want to compare those quotes, and then you can leverage those quotes off one another. So if you have a couple hotels that really you want to have the event and the competition is offering a low price, you can mention that in the negotiations, and they will either match that price or maybe they throw in some benefits like free AV or free food or some of the amenities that make it worth paying the extra price. But by getting quotes and getting multiple bids for your event, you'll bring the cost down for your meeting space for your event, and that's a big thing. Now, one of the things you also want to look at when you bring the cost down for your event is you want to ask the hotels, does the food, how much it costs to get the meeting space for free if you bought food? Because sometimes the food minimum is cheaper than paying for the meeting space. So you want to get the quotes on that and compare, because sometimes if you buy a certain amount of food, the hotel will throw in the meeting space for free. So, and then you can always get food sponsors to cover the food cost. So that intentionally you're getting your meeting space covered for free, which is really great. Now, another thing too, and staying on budgets for your event, is AV. Now, ideally, if you're doing events locally, you want to own your own AV. Basic items like your projector screen. You can have like a board, a whiteboard, even like one of those flip charts as well. Those are some of the basic items you want to own, because that will save you money on instead of paying for the hotel's AV. Now, you got to also know something. Some hotels are union and non-union. Union hotels may not allow you to bring in your own AV, which means you would have to pay them not only to use their AV, but to pay their person to watch the equipment during your event. And if they do allow you to bring your own AV, you may have to pay let me repeat this again. You want to ask yourself how many ticket sales you're going to make by this person speaking at your event. How many sponsorships, number 2, you're going to get from this person speaking at the event. How many projected sales are you going to get from this person speaking at your event? Is there a chance to do other events with this speaker in the future that will lead to new revenue opportunities for your company? So if there is, then you want to make the decision based on the revenue you're going to make at that event and the revenue you could potentially make in future events. If it's just that event, you just run the numbers for that event. And if that revenue number is greater, revenue projection number is greater than expense, then you can pay to bring in the thought leader, provided they're going to add the value you want for your conference. That is the most important thing when it comes to that. Now, don't pay them if the expenses are high. It doesn't make sense unless you're doing it for a relationship play, because you know the business you're going to get long term will make up the short term loss you're taking. But you got to make sure it's a business decision. Don't just pay a speaker's travel costs and fees just because they want it paid. Everyone wants a speaking fee and their travel costs, but it's got to make financial sense for you, the event organizer. Especially when booking big thought leaders, they have to align. The tribe has to align with your conference and audience. And if it doesn't, then don't book them, because it won't be a good experience. Now, if it does, that is really important. So that is a few tips when it comes to speaker selection for your events. One of the things I did not cover that I meant to cover in the previous section was also when it comes to hotels. You want to look at avoid something. It's called the room block. If you have a major conference and you're having a couple days, hotels will typically try to get you to commit to 10, 20, or 30 rooms. But as an event organizer, if you don't sell those rooms, you're on the hook to pay that bill. So a better strategy when it comes to that is you want, as an event organizer, to ask the hotel for a discount code. And your audience members can go on the hotel's website, enter the discount code, and get a discount up to maybe 2 weeks prior to the event. While the hotel can still sell those rooms to other guests that are not affiliated with your conference. So remember, people will go to Expedia. They'll go to Travelocity. They'll go to different travel sites, and they're going to find the best hotel and flight deal. And that's not always booking directly through the hotel. So don't assume just because you have 50 conference attendees that they're going to all book through the hotel. A lot of them are not going to do that. And then so you got to factor in Airbnb. Some people may book an Airbnb and book a flight and not stay at the hotel and just take an Uber to your event. So you have to factor those things in when it comes to those costs. And so that's just one landmine I wanted to make people aware of, because I've stepped in that. And I had a conference a couple of years ago when I did one of my first summit events where we had just under $10,000 of unused rooms. And that was a painful learning lesson. So I'm talking from experience when it comes to that. So that's something you just want to be aware of and be cognizant of. So just to recap what we've also covered just now, speaker selection. Like I said, you want to ask the speaker what is their ideal target market, to see if it lines up with your event and your conference. You want to ask them what are they offering, what's the product that they're selling, a service they're selling, to see if it's going to add value to your members and to see if the price point is in the right range that your membership or community is used to. You also want to negotiate the JV deal. You want to negotiate the payment terms. When you get paid as an event organizer, is it going to be 30, 45 days in back-end sales? Is it going to be a week or two? Who's going to collect the money? Is that going to be you? Is that going to be the speaker? So you have to have that in written contract. And then to go over what we covered when it comes to the booking big thought leaders. Well, like I said, you want to make sure that their tribe and community is a fit for your event, because you're counting on their celebrity to drive traffic. And a lot of these thought leaders or influencers want to be paid. So these are the factors you have to go over when considering paying them or not. You want to consider, how many ticket sales am I going to get from this person speaking event? How many sponsorships will I get because this person's coming and speaking at my event? What is the projected educational sales and courses I'm projecting with this thought leader or big influencers? Do you have a chance to do future events with them that will generate more revenue for my company? Those are the factors you want to consider whether to vote up or down when it comes to big thought leaders and influencers for your event. So we covered those sections. And in one section I'm going to go over next is also how to run your event, especially as we're getting back to more live events. Now, when you're doing live events, the standard rule is you want to get there an hour and a half to 2 hours early to set up your room. So whether that be someone else's meeting space, or that be a hotel meeting space, because you don't want to assume that everything's the way you want it. Because I've experienced a lot when I've gotten into meeting spaces and they haven't been with what I want them to be set up. Because you want to make sure the tables are set up, registration tables, sales tables are set up. You want to make sure the chairs are set up the way you want it. You want to make sure the AV works, especially if it's not your AV and you're using the hotel AV. And if there's an issue, you want to get there early enough so you can nip that in the butt before you let your guests start arriving for your events. So that is important when it comes to setup, because you want to make sure everything in the room is the way it's supposed to be, where it be the water pitchers, where it be the sales table, where it be the registration table, where it be the chair setup, where it be the AV equipment. You want to make sure your PowerPoint's right. You want to stand in the back of the room and you want to look at what is going on with your PowerPoint to make sure the people in the back can see that so it works. You want to have all those things set up in the live event, especially as we're getting seeing more live events come back. These are the tips that you want to do to make sure your live event goes smoothly. Now, when it comes to filling this section here, when it comes to filling butts and seats for your event, you want to look at the following, do the following things. One, when you first started out, setting up a Meetup community is a great way. Meetup charges plans of $12 to $35 a month. It depends if you use the basic or pro versions. The great thing about Meetup is once you create your community, your Meetup group, 3 days, the Meetup will publish your Meetup group on their directory in the city you created in. And then they'll start marketing your group out to the Meetup community. So people will find about your Meetup community and join your Meetup community. So you're benefiting from Meetup pushing your community out there to the directory, attracting people to your database. You also want to be telling people about your email Meetup community, whether it be through email, through social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, getting people to join your Meetup community. And then once you have your Meetup community, you have the ability to create events. And you want to create events, you'll want to have a good subject line. You usually have 100 words. You want to have 4,000 words for descriptions. Description should tell them the following thing: what's in it for them, who are you and why should they care, what are they going to get out of the event, how's it going to add value to them. And you want to put that in there. And the Meetup gives you the ability also to create a link, to put a link. If it's a virtual event, you can put the address. You can also collect money through Meetup. It usually goes to WePay and it takes 2 to 5 business days. And then you can broadcast out through your database, either inside the Meetup group where it says contact members, or you'll get a link that you can use in your own email to broadcast out to your database. Now, one of the most important things when it comes to Meetup is you want to make sure that people are opting into your email list. So you want to provide your link. You want to provide your link for them to opt into your Meetup, to your email list. So then you're building your email database, which you own 100% of. And so you're transferring the people on Meetup into your own list. And so you're building your own community as you're doing your events on Meetup and going along. That's a great tip when it comes to promoting your events, especially when you're first starting out. Another great way to promote your events is Eventbrite. Now, Eventbrite allows you to create an Eventbrite event. You can use Eventbrite for free. You want to have a good subject line. You're going to have a description. You're going to have the opportunity to add videos and photos. So if you go to the bottom of the page, you'll say add videos and photos, and you click and upload a photo or video from cache. Then you use the arrow up and down to insert it. You'll also, Eventbrite is going to give you a section to go to online event. So you can do the same thing. You'll put the online event link, where it be Zoom, another platform, and you can add videos and photos as well. And then you have a section for order form. Order form will give you the ability to customize, and you want to select buyers only. You don't want each attendee, because you want to be able to customize and get people's name, email, and phone number so you can confirm people for your event. And then you'll have the ability to email and text message remind them for the event. So Eventbrite is a good way, because they'll post your event in the Eventbrite city that you've designated for, so create some traffic for you as well. So that's a great way. Another great way to market is email marketing. This is your own database. So when you first start out, you want to have a contact management system. You can use something like MailChimp or Aweber to start out, because they're fairly inexpensive, between $9 and $20 a month. And then once you get a little more experience, you go something like Constant Contact or Keep Pro. That range plans from 50 to 200, depending on what type of volume and how many emails you're sending out. So you want to use a database. So you're building a database that automates the email system. And then as you're getting people to opt into your events and you're building that database, you want to eventually customize and segment the list. So you know what certain clients want. You can offer certain products to certain people and then customize that list as well. That's when you get into something more like Keep Pro, which allows you to do those features with broadcast, collect money, customize the list, add contacts and other features, as well as Constant Contact is another great company for that as well. So you want to do that. So email marketing is really important because it's your own list and you own it 100%, and it's not tied to a third-party service like a Meetup or Eventbrite. And with those cases, you want to get those people to opt into your links so you can get them into your database. And another great way is social media. And we're just going to go over here briefly, social media. When it comes to LinkedIn, you can definitely have what I call a LinkedIn event. And a LinkedIn event is you can create the event, you'll get a thumbnail, you get a main image, you'll get a subject line, you put a description, you could put a ticket link or a webinar link as well. And then you'll be able to invite your LinkedIn contacts and an invitation for your event and broadcast messages out to them as you're building for the event. Now that's a really great strategy. Just to be aware when it comes to LinkedIn events is that some people treat it as a LinkedIn invitation. So you got to, after they accept it, you got to say something like, thank you for accepting my LinkedIn invitation. Please click the link below, click the link below and reserve a seat today for our upcoming event. You just got to mind and take action to reserve a seat for your upcoming event through you. So LinkedIn events is great. Another way is YouTube, is building a YouTube channel, posting videos, posting content, segmenting that. Those are some great ways as far as building content and events. So you want to post your tips, your replays of past event. So if you have a Mac, like I have a MacBook Pro, iPad Pro, you can use iMovie to edit your videos. You can also use Final Cut Pro as well. If you have PC, there's other software out there that you can use as well. So YouTube is a great way. Facebook is a great way because you can do Facebook Lives, plus it's connected to Instagram, which you can do Instagram Lives and photos, especially on Instagram. It's a lot of really about the photos and lives and mixing up the content. And what's good about Facebook is you can do Facebook Lives and it'll go on your Instagram Live as well. You also can create Facebook groups, and I recommend you create a Facebook group for your public Facebook group and a private Facebook group only for your coaching students can access, because you can do that. And then you also want to create the content, how you monitor it. You don't just want everyone to be able to post. You want to approve the post as an organizer. And when you approve the post, then when you approve it, people are more appreciative than if they can keep spamming your group. Plus, it keeps the content where you want it to be for your community and for your Facebook group as well. So these were just some tips on how to really take your events to the next level. And one of the things I want to talk about now is we offer our event coaching program. In our event coaching program, we have 6 and 3 months. And we do 6 months, we do bi-weekly calls for 6 months, which is 12 strategy calls. You get unlimited text and email support. Our price for that is $1,997. We also offer 2 and 3 payments as well for our event coaching program, for a 6-month program. We also have a 3-month program, which is bi-weekly calls for 3 months, which is $997. We also offer 2 and 3 payments as well. If you go to www.hbssuccess.com and click on event coaching, it will have the complete details of the event coaching and the results you get, a customized plan. You get an action plan on how to organize your events. You get the bi-weekly strategy calls with me. You get the information delivered to you on a Facebook group, on a private Facebook group as well through email. So we're there for you every step of the process to help you with your events, help them be more successful, increase your attendance, and click the link for event mastery coaching